volunteering is more than just a word. It's a window to opportunities. Take Mark, for example. By taking free TV classes at CCX Create, Mark is helping bring entertainment and information to his community, along with building a foundation of skills that will take him one step closer to his dreams. Share your passion. Visit ccxmedia.org.
Hello and welcome to Book Beat. My name is Sue Ellen Zagrabelny and I'll be your host today. Our guests are Anne Yurchek and Jodee Kulp. Anne is the author of a book called Furry, the Little Penguins That Could. And Jodee is the illustrator of the book. Welcome to Book Beat.
Thank you.
You're welcome to be here. I am so happy to hear about this book. Book Beat is a place for all things literary, and this is a book that I found very fascinating. Anne, could you tell us a little bit about Furry?
Furry started in kindergarten. I have an adopted son whose name is McKellen, or Mackie, and he was born with fetal alcohol syndrome and multiple medical complexities. And kindergarten was going to be hard. And Mac uses a wheelchair. He couldn't talk. He couldn't do a lot of things the other kids did. And I was worried about how he was going to be accepted by the other children. And as he went into kindergarten, on the very first day of his kindergarten year, his regular teacher said, "We're not going to worry about educating Mac. We're just, at the beginning, we're just going to worry about socializing him." And at first I was getting a little mad. He needs to learn something. But she was right. He needed to be able to learn to be around other kids and how to do everything else like everybody else. And so I worked with teacher, and we learned how to help Mac together. And so she was looking at, so the story starts with kindergarten and a little boy who needed inclusion, and the story's real. Granted, there's illustrations and all the rest, but the whole story behind it really did happen.
And it's the story of Mac.
Mac and a little penguin that teacher brought out. This teacher loves stuffies. And kindergarten was full of stuffed animals, and she used them to teach the kids. And Mac didn't like to eat, and he couldn't stay in school if he wasn't eating enough. So she brought out this little penguin, and she would pretend to have the penguin eat Mac's food and steal it. So then Mac would hurry up and eat it. And so this little penguin became Mac's partner and encourager. And this penguin was named Snack Penguin. And eventually Mac would want to bring him home. And Mac would get sad when he'd have to return him. And so I found another one. And so Furry entered. And so it's just stories told by Snack Penguin. And then Furry enters. And it's the story of kindergarten, all the lessons that we learn in kindergarten, and how to include and accept others who are different in kindergarten.
That is fascinating, and I am so happy that story is being told. It is something that is very needed. So, from concept to reality, I understand that this was book writing on steroids.
They say a well-done children's book can take, is it a year and a half to 2 years to get from start to finish. I came up with the idea around Thanksgiving, presented to Jodee in December, right before Christmas. No one does anything at Christmas. And in January, we started really thinking about it, kind of planning. And so we had storyboards and a few other such things in January. But we started working in February and had to be done by
May 1st.
May 1st, including all the illustrations and drawings.
874 drawings.
Okay. Okay. So, why was it a chapter book?
Because the story was too long to tell it any other way. And you couldn't just tell little pieces of it to really make an impact.
Okay.
And so we took it into little pieces that can each kind of stand alone as its own little story and teach us a lesson. And so it can be broken up into, it's what, 29 chapters?
29 chapters plus ripples, which makes it 30.
Which is 30. They say to make a habit, you need 30 days. So we did 30 chapters, and we didn't plan that on purpose. It just kind of broke up into
things, into 30 things. What in your background, Anne, led you to create this book?
I wrote my own memoir story about my biological daughter, Becca, who has severe Noonan syndrome. She was born 29 years ago and never expected to survive. And so I wrote that with Jodee back in 2005. And I never thought I was a writer. I was just a mom. But I knew that there was a story that needed to be told for parents who have chronically ill little kids, and to help them so they could understand the journey. But the second half of that book is our adoption of our 5 kids that we adopt, siblings that were separated in foster care. And kind of a crazy story, both parts of it. But when I was a little kid, I always said I wanted to be a writer. And I would write little books and different things. My mom reminded me of that. And
How fun.
I actually found one the other day. But
Wonderful.
I never planned on writing a story. There was just stories that needed to be told. So I had to step into writing these stories.
Okay.
Because sometimes miracles are meant to be shared.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you said just a mom. That is not true. Moms are not just.
Yes, but when you start off the journey as a regular mom, and when you all of a sudden are in the having to compare your life with critical and challenging challenges, I was just a mom, and all of a sudden we embarked on a roller coaster ride. So I used the word just. In fact, Jodee, when I wrote my first book, she goes, Anne, you were never just a mom. But I was a regular mom. And then, so I argued with her, and I made her leave the just. And everyone with like Mom's Choice, and when I've been interviewed by some of the different news places, they all talk about the just. Because it starts it off right.
Okay.
And so they've all pointed out that's the thing that just struck them. So
Okay.
it's a conversation starter.
Well, that's a good point to it, to bring the conversation forward,
Right.
and that's something that's very important. You talked a little bit, Jodee, about how many illustrations?
874.
Did you have the whole book before you started illustrating?
No. No, we looked at, there are a number of characters in the book. As you know, there's lots and lots of stuffed animals. We looked at all the major manufacturers of all the stuffed animals, and we took pieces of the stuffed animals we liked the best. So they're kind of a composite of all the best of all the major manufacturers. And they became the animals in the story, because we didn't want it to just be furry. We wanted it to be a child who had a teddy bear, or a child who had a doggy, or a child who had a pony, that they were just as important. Or if you had Bat, well, my goodness, Bat is just as good as Donkey, you know, if it's in the heart of a child. So then it was taking all those characters and making them come alive. And that was a lot of feet and hands and paws and hooves and noses.
And tails.
And tails.
And tails. Oh, how did you get to know each other? It's obvious you've had some history together.
We both have tough kids, and we both love tough kids and adults. So we met at a camp.
Okay.
I think Ann had read some of my books before.
It was the very first Fetal Alcohol Task Force in camp back in the early 2000s, and Jodee was there, and she had written these different books, and I was there with one of my adopted daughters and advocating for fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. At that point, it was fetal alcohol syndrome. And these kids that come from care and come from foster care and adoption and very complex trauma. And so she had her books, and it was about the next year I was working. I had been told I needed to write a story. In fact, I was told by Oprah I had to write the story, and Oprah's people. And I just kept procrastinating because I'm not a writer, I'm just a mom. And so I ended up starting to write, and got partway through and was having some writer's block. And I go, well, why, how am I, who's gonna ever read this book? And I'm going, well, God, I need you to give me the people to make it happen. Well, People magazine called my house and ended up in my kitchen, and she told me, Ann, you have to finish this book. And then I'm going, but how am I gonna do this? And I'm going, I'll call Jodee. She did this. She's gotta know how to do this. She found somebody to do hers. Well, I didn't know she did it herself. And we weren't really friends back then. We just had met. And you you decided to help me.
I decided to help.
That is
And we did it in,
We took a little bit more time.
I think we had 9 months, 6 months.
Yeah, we took about 9 months or a year, but it was.
But we wanted it done for Mother's Day. But we started in the fall. Started in November, because I'd finished the NaNoWriMo Writers Challenge in November. So we did it from December till, we did it in 5 months.
Yeah, but that was written.
That was already written.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
different than.
No drawings.
That was different than illustrating and drawing and writing.
Yes.
And rewriting
Yes.
and.
So this really was a collaboration.
Oh yeah, this book was us together,
Okay.
Totally us together.
and all the things that happened in our lives in between trying to write this, because we've got busy, complex, complicated families and lives. So you never knew when one of us was going to fall out for a couple days or a week, and then the other one would pick up.
So it was really, if one couldn't hold it together.
The other one was working as hard as they could to work.
Yep.
And all the while, Mackie is very busy in his life, in his school, and all of this stuff, and requires 24/7 watching. So, and you're sitting there writing and different things, and Mackie's going, hey, that looks like me. And he goes, and all of a sudden you're working on something, Jodee's sending me a picture, and then there's Mackie goes, well, Furry needs such and such, or Furry needs a fish. And so Mackie even collaborated.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah. So he needed 5 fish, one of each color, with a number on it.
Okay. Did he have 2 loaves too?
No, but he did get 2 of each.
Okay. I'm being silly, but
Yeah.
We have to be silly. The whole thing, one of the things that's fun about Furry is that we've been dealing with really tough stuff and really tough families that we work with, and tough issues and struggles for hundreds of families that we come across who are raising kids that are misunderstood. And a lot of people don't know how to help. And Jodee and I've done it, and we work with these families. And Furry became fun. It became that break, that piece of something and where we can just laugh and we can just sit back and smile. But also, so many of those kids that we work with are left out. So it fills that hole that we can do something for the kids and help them be accepted and included, but also fun for ourselves.
Yeah, it was fun.
It is a fun book.
Yeah, and then the teachers, because Mac was homeschooled and not with homebound teaching, and the teachers would say, you know what, you need to have those animals talking more. It was like, oh no, we got to do that. So then we had to make the animals talk more in every chapter, and so it became a collaborative from anyone that was in Anne's house, and she's got lots of people that come and go all the time. So.
Oh, how fun. How fun.
And it was all a secret from teacher. We kept it a total, this is a little tiny town that was keeping a big secret.
Now that in itself is a minor miracle.
Mac's parapro would sneak into the kindergarten room and take pictures of the classroom, because Mac's now in first grade with his para. And so she would go in there to go do some paperwork for somebody or whatever and take pictures. And because we knew she was going to be retiring after the end of this year, and that's why we had to hurry up and get it done to surprise her. And but we wanted memories of her kindergarten classroom in the book. So she has a keepsake, and I wanted parts of it to be real. And so she would, well, we need this wall, and she would sneak in there and go, or when they were out out on the playground or something, and grab more pictures and send them to us, because we wanted a picture of the door. And welcome to the Penguin Kindergarten. And so there's pieces of real throughout this.
How do you see this book being used?
Wow, a lot of ways. One of the ways is it's an inclusive book, and it's a book on disability, but it's not disability in any way of talking about it. It just is. And there aren't very many books that just allow life to happen, to become just what it is at that moment. And this book does that. And so Mackie captures that part of disability that people don't understand and brings the world into it instead of just being told about it. You become part of it and understand it. We're hoping to stop bullying, and we've been working on that. So can we change 3 to 8-year-olds' idea about differences so that it's cool? I mean, he's different, but it makes him a really strong, brave person, instead of, oh, that's kind of a little bit different, and then they tease. We don't want that. We want it to be like, wow, he's brave.
Yes.
And we're also looking at shared reading, so children that are nonverbal can read the story with their families. So let's say they can't talk, but we can start with 4 words. We can start with I like, not, and want. And those are the 4 words on the first ACCs. And so they can.
What's ACC?
It's a nonverbal language reading program. So they can actually read with a board, or they can read with, they can see the word I in the book, and they can click, or they can nod their head, or they can tap, or they can blink their eyes. But the child can read it with you. So even if you can't talk, we've got the book designed in a way that a child that can't speak can read.
Oh, that's fabulous.
One of the other things that I want to do on one of the versions coming up is taking the Dolch words, the words that you learn as a kindergarten. So like in the first chapter, you'll teach 4 words, and you'll have them highlighted in, say, like one of the versions, and online versions. So you could be reading it with Mom, so it'll say furry and I. So and is in yellow. So Mom says furry, the child says and, then Mom says I, and so they're reading it together. So in the next chapter, you would add now the new word like, and 2 are in there. And so you already learned those first 4 words, and they're lit up or in yellow. So then you get to chapter 2. So now it is furry, child says and I. Now it's yellow, like, to go to kindergarten, so Mom can finish reading it. So by the end of the book, the child's reading quite a few words, and they're reading it together. But there's even another surprise we've done with the book. We have the Apple iBook that we're just getting ready to put out, and the characters move.
Ooh, how fun.
Yeah.
So the wheelchair rolls into the picture. Furry's in the washing machine, and he's spinning. So there's always an animation that catches the child's attention, and you can't wait for the next page to see what's going to happen.
Oh, fun.
And it's caught kids' attention that can't focus. So all of a sudden, Furry spins in the washer, and the kid is listening to the book, where they weren't able to do it. Somehow this silly animation that we did allows them to want to hear what's happening.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
That is amazing. Whose idea was it to include Furry with the book?
I didn't. And one day I was just sitting there thinking about Mac and Furry, and I went to. He came from Aurora World, and it's their #1 seller. And I'm going, well, I need to order more Furries for Mac to have a few more up in the closet, because Furry, we almost lost him.
And he wears out.
And he wears out. And I called Aurora World and asked what it would take to become a retailer. And so I could, you can't have a book without a stuffed animal. Most people who have books eventually have to get a licensor afterwards to do the stuffed animal. Furry already existed.
Mm-hmm.
So Aurora World goes, well, you just need to have a tax number. So I got a tax number. I needed to have it for the book anyway. And they go, well, this is the price for Furry, and almost everybody who buys a book buys a Furry. And then they also have little Furry clips and a little 6-inch Furry.
And a baby Furry blanket.
And a baby Furry blanket.
Oh,
And
fun.
so I go, I guess we're selling stuffed animals in books too on our website. So,
Whatever works.
Whatever works. So it kind of evolved.
and every one of Mac's friends has to have a Furry.
Uh-huh.
So I had already bought 16 of them in the book for Christmas that one year.
Mm-hmm.
So all Mac's kindergarten friends ended up with a Furry. But secret part of the book.
Oh, that's wonderful. You mentioned, you used the word just a mom, and you did or didn't consider yourself a writer?
I didn't. But I've learned I am.
Yes. Besides,
I've learned to do a lot of things that I never thought I'd do.
yep. Besides writing this book on steroids, it's the idea of, double fast, putting things together in a time frame that's just impossible. Do you have a process that you follow, or is it?
It's divine intervention.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's my dad's a designer and an engineer and an inventor and things, and I have some of his gifts. So you can see things that you want, and And I guess my great uncle was a professor and a writer too. So some of it comes genetically, but you can picture it, and then you just make it happen. Just like when my kids were little, I used to see an item or a clothing item, and I could just make it happen. I could just put it all together. And so I think it's just my creativity, but it's also the story. And so it just comes together in a way that is your own unique style, but it's also, it's divinely inspired, because I didn't do this by myself.
Yeah.
Okay. You've used the word evolving several times. Is that how the stories come to be? Or you're saying divine intervention,
Well,
but
I can give an example. There'll be smaller books with each of these books because there's more stories to tell, and I do other work, obviously. And I got asked one day if I would train a pig in my dog training class, and I'm like, how can I train a pig in my dog training class? Because this isn't, well, that evolved George, who goes to dog training, which will be a book that will follow this and all the differences, because he's very different than a dog. And we had to use lots of adaptations for him and lots of even different words, because his life is different. So we had to do a lot of different things. So they evolve. I mean, I didn't go to work that day planning on thinking about writing a story about a pig in a dog training class. But, you know, I told Anne, and she's like, oh, that makes sense.
Whatever works.
And we're about inclusion, friendship, and ability and acceptance. And how could I say no to a pig?
That's true. That's true.
And one of the things that's interesting is that when we first started Furry, I started Furry as I knew that it was a unique story, because inclusion is, we don't know how to do inclusion very well.
Correct.
And I knew when we first started this, we had no idea what we were doing, but we worked together to figure it out, and Mac taught us along the way, and the kids taught us along the way. And so I knew that I had to write the story, and I wanted to do it to surprise teacher. I never expected that we were going to have it done and ready to be published, or we would be where it was going to go. But I knew that I needed to write the story. Mm-hmm. And we surprised her, and as it's been, then she turned around and surprised me with a secret from her, that she wanted to record it for me with her voice reading the real story. And so there's just pieces that just keep coming together to make the message stronger and to move it forward. And October's Bullying Month. And part of Furry, what was written for, is to make sure 80% of children with disabilities will be bullied regularly.
That is true, I can imagine.
Bullying is, for regular or typical kids, I guess I will say, is happening. 1 in 4. We have children with mental health needs, 1 in 5. Kids with autism, 1 in 58, 68, depending on which number you look at. The newest things are kids with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders are 1 in 20. We have a lot of kids with a lot of unique needs, and peanut allergies are rising. We have, my biological kids grew up with having to eat differently than everybody else, because they eat gluten-free in a day when no one else did, and they were bullied for it. And so I knew that bullying is something that's worse. It was bad when my kids were little, but right now it's really at the forefront. We're talking about it. And so I knew Furry had the power to help us teach acceptance, and teach empathy, and teach kindness, and teach all of these things. Because if we teach character in kindergarten, and teach how to be kind, and how to include,
How to respect.
then maybe when we get these kindergartners to 7th, 8th, 9th high school, it's going to be rare. And how do we do that? By books.
Yes.
But most of the books that are out there are all about just a certain child with autism, or a certain child with this or that. It's never everybody. And so I think that's the beauty of Furry, as Jodee talked about.
With all the hooves and noses and tails.
With all the hooves. Yes, that's right.
That's wonderful.
And ears.
And ears, yes. When we hear segments of the book, we will be hearing teacher's voice, is that correct?
That's Mac's kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yes.
So there are going to be some sections of the book that will be included in this broadcast.
Awesome.
And one of the things that Jodee and I are working on is not only Furry, but creating the curriculum that goes with every chapter of the book. So the teachers are busy. They don't have time to research curriculum and everything. By the end of this, we will have Furry, we will have the curriculum, we will have the smart board or the iPad version where you can touch the button and the chapter can be read to them by teacher, by the real teacher, and even maybe see a picture of Mac.
So, that's fabulous.
So in 30 different chapters, So the teacher will have all the pieces at her hands to teach this and teach inclusion in its entirety.
Well, and not only teachers, but families.
Family.
Because
Yes.
see, this is a book that a daddy can read and snuggle up with their kids and then look at it the next day, or look at the curriculum and say, I can embellish this, I can make this better, and I can take this chapter and I can change the way my family looks at this situation, and we can change us, you know, and we
Yeah.
can change it one family at a time. And 30 days of reading with a mom or dad, a grandfather, a grandpa, grandma, aunt or uncle, sister, brother, that's snuggle time. That's
Yep.
safe touch, cuddle time, and learning and talking, and we draw a lot of questions from this book that we ask the kids, and hopefully the next day they're asking those questions. You know, where did my name come from? Or where, you know, what do you think about this? We want them to challenge so that the parents and the teachers have to answer it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what's happening is it's encouraging open-ended questions
Yes,
and encouraging conversation between parents and children
yes,
and between children and children.
yes. And making them brave. Making
How
them-
so?
Well, Furry is about being brave, and by brave it means having the courage to be kind, having the courage to share, having the courage to stick up for a friend, having the courage to smile and wave, having the courage to go up to someone in a wheelchair or with a disability and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" I mean, and not look at them as a different person, just look at them as another human being. We all have the same blood,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and if we took off our skins, we'd all look pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's another little piece that's embedded in the book. There'll be a concept called emotional support partners. Furry became, how many kids in kindergarten want to take their stuffy? Or they want to take their stuffed animal, their whatever it is, their comfort item, because things are scary.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up in backpacks or whatever. Well, you can have, in our society, it's okay for people with disabilities to have a service animal. At home, therapeutic to have an emotional support animal. How come for kids, the animals have to stay behind, and we have, some of these kids are scared doing something first. And Furry breaks that down. So Furry gets to go to school. Furry's on Max IEP. Furry is part of the classroom. Furry's on the class register. And so it's opened the doors to another concept called emotional support partner, and making stuffies or whatever inanimate object our kids love as being certified and being therapeutic, because we know that stuffed animals are comfort our kids. We've always, for generations, we've all had a stuffy, or somebody's had a blanket or something. But for kids who have some challenges or some mental health needs or anxious, that stuffy gives them some security to try something new. And we've made that be an okay thing. So, and not be teased.
Right. Could you explain what an IEP is, please?
An IEP is for kids with special needs. It's the way that they get their individualized education plan to accommodate them in a classroom or in a school setting. Kids can either have an IEP or a 504. And Furry is actually official on Mac's federally legal document for his schooling. Furry's included.
That's fabulous. That is fabulous. You mentioned some things about other stories you want to tell, other stories that need to be told.
Where do we begin?
You have Pink Puppy.
My daughter Becca's 29, and when she was in the NICU, she was there for 7 months. The opening day of the NICU, I guess I'm gonna back up. When I was a baby, toddler and a little kid, I had a pink dog, and Pink Puppy was with me till I was about 9, but whenever I needed him, he was there. In fact, he was wore out, and then I got another one. Well, my youngest daughter Becca was born with severe Noonan syndrome, and she was airlifted to the Children's Hospital from where she was. And I was walking in with my mom on this new adventure that I don't think any parent ever wants to have. And in the gift shop window was a pink puppy. And I looked at it, and I had tears running down my face. And my mom walked in and bought it. She goes, "This is for Becca." And so Pink Puppy joined her in the NICU unit and was at her side for all 7 months. And when she came out of the hospital, that Pink Puppy was with her for every poke, every procedure, every doctor visit, and was her comfort animal. And she's 29. That dog will still come out for surgery. She's been through more than with Becca. They all have tags, whatever, but that dog is still with it. So we're going to write a story for medically complex kids about Pink Puppy and Becca's story. And we're going to do it in small books, which is like 32 pages, about how an animal can help you go through tough stuff. Out of Becca's story. And what's another one? George the Pig.
George the Pig.
One of the other ones is about emotional support partners, and the book that goes with that will have like how our stuffies can help us, how we can be brave, talking about emotions, using the characters that are in here to help kids name emotions. And they'll all be very small books, but all about 32 pages, which will help children pretty much 3 to 8 with differing scenarios.
Oh, fantastic.
So we're not done yet.
Yeah, we're
No.
not done yet.
Yes. So keep drawing, Jodee,
I
right?
guess so.
I think one of the things that would be wonderful for our audience is to hear some of the adventures of Furry. So we're going to take some time to do that right now.
Teaching about friendship, ability, and inclusion. Furry, the little penguins that could. Written by Yurchek, illustrated by Jodee Kulp. Better endings, new beginnings in Minneapolis, USA. Dedication. Much love to Mrs. C in the little school that could, in the little town that would, and of course, Furry, Snack, and McKellen. Without them, we have no story. Chapter 1. Let us start at the beginning. Hi, my name is... Oh no, there I go again, getting ahead of myself. You see, once upon a time, I didn't have one of those. A name, I mean, and a story. Do you have a name? Names come from people who love you, and for a long, very long, very, very long time, I never had one. A name, I mean. My job was to sit still like a snow sculpture on the shelf and watch over the littles. Well, actually, some days I rode on a child's head. Sometimes I was held ever so gently or tumbled by accident on my bottom. In case you were wondering, or maybe you were confused, the littles are what we call the children. Back to my story. Penguins are known to run around and flap, flap, flap. Well, I mean waddle, 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 and flap. One day, oh, there I go again, getting ahead of myself. I must really start at the beginning. I will just start all over. Penguins can admit when they are having trouble and begin again anytime they wish. Sometimes it is the right time to end and begin, or sometimes they choose to start and stop. So this is really not precisely the beginning. It is the beginning of last year at the little school that could, in the little town that would. And of course, most of it takes place in the penguin kindergarten classroom. Most, but not all. Let me introduce myself. I am one of the many stuffies that lives in the kindergarten class. There are whole bunches of us. I am a penguin. I live with little penguins and big penguins and medium penguins. I live with black and white penguins. I live with gray and white penguins. Some of the penguins are furry, and some are not. There is even a baby penguin with a mommy. It doesn't matter what size or shape or style penguin we are. We are all penguins. We are scattered all over the classroom. Some of us live in buckets and barrels, and some rest on high shelves, and some sleep in baskets. The teacher calls this the penguin kindergarten classroom. I wonder why. Maybe it is because penguins are smart like children, or because the first grade classroom was already named owls, or maybe, just perhaps maybe, teacher really loves penguins. I think I know the answer. Teacher loves stuffies and animals and science. Because the classroom is filled with many more stuffies to take care of the littles and help them grow. None of us have names. We just are. We are called what we are unless a child names us. We say stuffies. Stuffies have a job that really matters to the children by being teachers' helpers. They say everything we need to learn in life, we learn in kindergarten. We have a herd, not like listening ears, but a group of animals just saying. There is pony, there is giraffe, there is donkey, there is cow, there is upside down bat, there is right side up mouse, there is dog, and there are more dogs. There is puppy, there is poodle, who does not think she is a canine. A canine is a dog. There is rooster, there is goose, there is chick, there is duck, there is owl. Oh, stop, those are the birds. Breathe and think, penguin. Oh, let's see, oh yes. There is, oops, I almost shared my super secret. And it's too early in this story to do that. Penguins are like that. We spill the beans. That means I tell the secrets before I should. Just saying. Back to all the stuffies. there is pig, there is lamb, there is lion, there is raccoon, there is hedgehog, there's fox, there is tiger, there is elephant, there is zebra, there is monkey, there is cat, there is bear, there is rabbit, there is dinosaur, and there is squirrel. I probably forgot somebody because there's so many of us. Like I said before, there are a zig trillion billion million penguins. Penguins exaggerate. In any case, teacher loves stuffies. And penguins are quite intelligent.
Ripples. It all starts with a ripple. If we start in kindergarten and teach friendship, inclusion, and that everybody matters, maybe, just maybe, we can stop bullying. Every child needs to have people who believe in them. Children who are taught to their strengths and supported in their challenges succeed as individuals with purpose. We just need to believe in all our children, and no one is left behind. We share Mac's story in hopes that it opens hearts and minds of children, families, schools, and their communities to reach out to those often hidden in the shadows. These individuals bring such knowledge to our world, and they make us better people. We are grateful to Mac and his sister Becca, who came as tiny teachers. Love, Mom. What's the name of the book, Mac?
That's right. There we go. Up, 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 up. Jumping, 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 jumping. Good stuff. All right, dancing. Dancing, dancing, dancing. Do, 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 do.
Thank you to Furry and Snack, the two little penguins that could, and especially to Mrs. Chambers for opening the door of inclusion and helping Mac feel safe and supported. A special thank you to Mac's kindergarten friends and their penguins. We appreciate the parents who supported their children in giving Mac the gift of friendship. Thank you to the little school that could and the little town that would for the real gift of acceptance. Meep, meep. Today, if you look carefully in a backpack of a first grader in the little school that could, you may just find a penguin or two peeking out. The end.
Can you, Jodee, tell me a little bit about the various animals on the cover of Furry?
And their qualities?
And their qualities?
And their qualities, sure.
All right. Well, each of the characters on the cover were like the favorites I drew, right? There was Rooster, and he's kind of bossy, and Cockadoodle doos around. And Giraffe sticks out his little blue tongue and gets into trouble for sticking out his tongue. And Puppy is just Puppy, you know, a good old loyal friend. Dinosaur is a baby, and because we couldn't draw a big giant dinosaur because that would take up the whole book, so we had to make a little dinosaur. And in the book he loses his teeth, and but he's going to get new ones because he's just a baby dinosaur, so he'll get new ones. And Cow is just Cow. Cow is from Wisconsin, and this book was written in Wisconsin, and we need to have a cow because cows just are lots of cows in Wisconsin. And Zebra is full of stripes, and if you stick him next to Pony, they're very similar, but they're different. And Zebra's a wild thing, and Pony is not quite as wild as Zebra. Lamb is soft and sweet, but she's also a good friend of Lion. And Lion's not on the cover, but he's awesome. And then Furry, of course, is in the school bus because Furry goes to school.
Anne, Jodee, thank you so much for joining us at Book Beat today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you for having us. I just want Furry to be spread. the word to spread. I want furry in every kindergarten in this country. And because our kids with differing abilities need friendship, we need to end their isolation. We need to teach kindness and have everyone have a friend. In Lancaster, in the book, you'll hear something called, we call it the little town, the little school that could in the little town that would. And slowly we've been changing it. And they ended up, we're changing minds, we're opening hearts, we're looking at inclusion. We have an inclusive playground in a small town.
That's fabulous.
We have a new buddy bench on the playground where the fourth graders came up with an idea for the buddy bench, and they wrote me a letter, and I funded it. And it was installed this year, so no one is sitting on the playground alone. Everyone shouldn't be on the playground by themselves. They shouldn't be isolated. They should not be bullied. And if Furry can make that difference, then something good happens out of just a crazy story. And Matt, and just for Mac, to see himself, it's amazing.
I think the important thing about Furry is that it's not about Ann and I, and it's not even really about Mac. It's about us as human beings changing and growing and being together. And you know, we'll just keep on working on it, and we'll just keep on following the evolution of whatever happens with this silly adventure God's got us on. But it's really for the people. It's really for the schools and the kids, and maybe in this generation, maybe we can change it. Maybe there won't have to be school shootings.
Oh, that would be a miracle. That would be a miracle.
Those kids were kids that were left out. Those kids were the kids that were sitting on the playground alone.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids were kids that didn't feel accepted. So we teach acceptance, ability, and inclusion, and maybe we just end bullying.
Would that it happens.
That it happens.
Yes. Ann Yurchek, Jodee Kulp, thank you for being on BookBeat. Thank you for joining us at BookBeat today, a show for all things literary. We thank our guests Jodee Kulp and Ann Yurchek, and for featuring the book Furry, The Little Penguins That Could, and our guest, of course, Furry. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time.